folks because I've been talking a lot, dealing with the soloists. I only have one comment on this tune, and it has nothing to do with our improvisation or any of the notes that you guys play, and merely because I'm a child of the theater, and my mom is actually a college professor in music theater, so I have this like theatrical diva stage mom, and my dad plays the jazz saxophone. So I have both sides always. So my mom's, usually her feedback when she sees me play has nothing to do, she doesn't know about which chords I play, what scales I play. Her observations are all about my stage presence and how I conduct myself on stage. And this might be a little bit, getting too deep in the weeds because you guys aren't playing professional concerts in front of audiences every night. But one little pet peeve of mine is that if you saw a professional band play and they were reading music, never would you ever see a music stand extended this high. And this happens a lot with student ensembles. And a lot of times when people say to me, it's like, well, yeah, if it's not like right here, then it's harder to see, and I can't see it. And you know what? Yes, it is. It's a lot harder to see. And sometimes when I'm doing that, I put the music stand here, and I'm like looking out of like the bottom of my eyes, and I have to like bend backwards to read the bottom of the page. But the reason that we do that is because when the music stand is up here, it's completely abstract. It's covering us up from the audience. I mean, like literally it's covering up the people in the first couple rows, right? Because they actually can't see your face and connect with you because the stand is there. But even just the fact that the stand is up this high, for anyone in the room, it's like there's just someone standing in front of you. There's like an obstruction between you connecting with the audience. So the difference, it might seem like something so innocuous, but the difference between having to stand there and having to stand there and you having to sort of like look down at it, it just like opens the audience up to you and they're going to connect with you so much more. And maybe that's one less person that's like not going to immediately be looking at their phone when the song starts. Or one more person that's going to think that it was a magical concert and all of a sudden wants to join your mailing list or buy a CD, and they wouldn't have done that. I mean, maybe I'm overstating the importance of this, but it's just a pet peeve of mine. So as much as our horn players, if you can get in the habit, I'm not saying you have to have it all the way down here and you have to like look out of your nostrils or something. I'm not saying that. But just see if you guys can find a place where like you're compromising, where you're not having a thing obstruct you from connecting with the audience and you can still read the music. So, we all just scooch this down a little bit and there you go. That's all I have to say. Anybody else in our rhythm section? Any observations?
Oh, sir. One thing that's always really challenging in groups where there's multiple instruments comping, I'm sure Tyler can speak more about this.
About to talk about this.
Okay.
You got it.
I'll get the ball rolling a little bit, but I would say something that I noticed when there's a horn player playing, it's always, even like the best musicians, I feel like this is always just something that's hard to do, is have two comping instruments at the same time, because you're both playing the chords and your voicings might not line up, and also the rhythms, you might be playing something that clashes with the space or whatever it is. But I think it's important that when there's however much space is being given to you or whatever it is, you have to make it kind of conversational, like I say, because my favorite records where there's multiple instruments comping, it doesn't sound like there's multiple instruments comping. It just sounds like the music, that's just how it was meant to be. It's almost like they wrote it that way, or like whenever there's a spot to fill, that guitarist or pianist, whatever, filled it there. It didn't sound like they had any discrepancies because it felt so natural to them. But I was just to say, I guess one specific comment during the piano solo, actually, I guess that's more when guitar could be more of a comping instrument. I would just say maybe be a little slightly more present. It kind of sounded like it's not like you were playing anything wrong and you were playing great times. So I would say play with a little bit, slightly more conviction when there's like the piano solo there. But I guess this is something more Tyler can talk about.
I'll say this. So your name is Atticus, right? So nice solo, but one thing I would work on is comping with your left hand while you're soloing with your right hand, which you started to do more as it went on, but at the beginning of your solo it was just one line, which can be a cool texture. But what's funny is you were comping the whole time until he started soloing, and then there was no chords at all. So for the whole, at least for the first couple A sections of the solo, it sounded, or it felt empty, and it felt like you were almost comping more for the other horns and then when he. So like if you hear him not using his left hand, then yeah, be more present there. then another thing, well, basically you have 3 ways to do it if you guys are gonna play together. The first way is someone plays octaves, like an octave line, almost like the last tune we worked on, line for lines. Like there's backgrounds, so you become a background, and you play like a background line that sustains while the other person plays chords. The other way you could do it is you guys find a rhythm that locks together, where you're playing the same rhythm, or one person has like a consistent rhythm, like a repeating rhythm, and then the other person is more like longer chords and pads, or you just like look at each other and take turns. So yeah.
So I have a question maybe that Charles can address, because this is something that I've seen. It's one thing when you play a swing groove, where everybody in the rhythm section, we keep talking about conversation. If you have swing, there's a lot of room for interpretation, switching up the vibes and the grooves, and rhythm. The rhythm section who will let's fourth so they just swing. You know, playing swing. What do you do when it's blocking? What do you right? So then if you're closing it once, right? Immediately you just change it. Switch right hand. Out. So you were going boom, 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 boom the whole time, right? What if you're going boom, 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 boom. Now we're on a whole different feel, right? The bass is gonna hit it like, oh, he's doing something with the low part of his instrument. He's going to go boom, boom. Now it's giving you more space, but you can also decide to go boom, boom. Just changing tiny little things can spark a completely different. So now imagine you changed the cymbal, put it on a dry instrument, and you took the bass drum thing out. Now there's all this space for your left hand to do something. There's all this space for the bass and guitar, piano to do something, right? So that's the first thing I would do. And you did actually, no, I'm lying, you did do that. You went to the side of the thing, right? And you noticed how it immediately changed the vibe, right? So that's one of the best things you can do. You know what I mean? Is just changing texture, especially for the drums. And I have to say this before, when you're sitting at the kit, you don't have your butt at the basket. You have to come up. Yeah. See, like that's especially like shape. It's telling you how to sit, right? Because you can. Because I noticed you're like this. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hurt yourself. So no, I fall into it too. I'll be like, yeah, we're swinging, man. Yeah. I get into it too. But it's like you're supposed to. You look at Buddy Rich, he had the worst posture ever. He's the greatest drummer of all time. But you want to stay up straight. And standing like this, you're going to hurt yourself. And it's just going to throw you off balance, right? So I had nothing to do with rhythm section stuff. It just, make sure you, I think you're pretty tall too, so I think you can sit even further back. I think you could bring it back off.
tendency sometimes, but especially with, something you might not be used to. But I always say, like, just get the job done, like, what's the thing I can do that's gonna feel the best, rather than like, oh, I played every correct note that's written in the bossa nova. Like, no, like, if the hi-hat on 2 and 4 is messing you up, just leave it out sometimes. And especially if you're doing a fill to go into the next section, forget about all that stuff. You can just literally go, bang, you know, and you can leave space, you can mess around with it. He's got your back, you know, trust me, he's got you, all right? So that's what I would say.
Cool.
Sweet.
Give it a round for these
Good.
guys. Good job.
Let's get Nate Ferguson to group up. Yeah, just as a reminder, for you guys that are here, I did, like I said, I did have pizza, like pizza will be delivered at 8:30, so that'll be
Yeah, I mean, my band's gonna eat first and whatever. You guys have that. We'll get a couple slices.
From 8:30 to 9, we're gonna watch.
Yeah, pizza eating masterclass, New York style, full slice. Yeah, for the pizza here, pizza treat. That's fine. We can because he had a question just about when we're soloing, talking about when we say like different shapes or
I know
structures.
you the piano with Tyler, right? You mentioned, yeah, he mentioned like how whenever he's soloing, it's a lot of little short stories that come together as one big story. So I asked whenever like you guys are soloing, you see color, shapes, or words.
Color, shapes, or words. So it's basically like we're talking about visualization with our solos, and I will tell you, I don't have synesthesia in that like, you know, a B flat is orange and a D is purple, like it's something like that. But I do think we can attribute certain colors to certain moods, right? So like, if you're playing a really fiery, like Art Blakey Caravan, Freddie Hubbard, he's ripping and he's burning, to me that's like, it's like a bright orange, you know, bright orange, yellowish red. And if you're listening to Miles Davis and they're playing My Funny Valentine and it's a harmony and it's this dark, mysterious, that's like a dark blue, a dark purple kind of mood. So there is some element of that, but I'm thinking less in terms of colors and I'm thinking more in terms of like emotions. So if I'm not thinking about chord structures and notes on the page and harmony, and I'm thinking about something more from like a holistic place, like a spiritual place, the story that I'm trying to tell, I think of emotion. So I think about if I'm trying to depict a happy scene, I'm going to play in a very different way. I'm going to articulate in a very different way than if I'm thinking like a sad, longing song. So it's like the difference between playing My Funny Valentine and being Miles Davis. What I am trying to articulate on that is like singing the song as if I'm a sad person that like is longing for this lost love and they're never going to come back to me. And the way that I communicate that through my instrument is like, you know, like I wasn't thinking anything about the notes I was playing. I was just thinking like, be sad, you know? Whereas if you're playing a really happy blues, it's like Cannonball Adderley. It always seems like he's having a party. Like, so I think of emotion, you know? I'm like, what emotion do I want to convey? So let me ask you this before we play this tune. September in the Rain, is this like a jolly song? Is this a somber song? Like, what story are you trying to tell on this? What is your concept of this tune?
So I don't necessarily. I mean, it's a happier tune in my opinion.
It could be. I mean, it depends. Like whatever story you're trying to tell.
Whenever I'm telling that, I think of myself kind of in a park, just kind of on a walk, and there's a nice breeze. It's kind of how I just.
So that is completely valid. So play that. You know, I want to visualize you in the park when you play. You know, that's a great question. All right, y'all, let's do it. throughout the tune with the rhythm section, and I'm sure we will address that. But what I loved is that by the time it was time to come back to the head out, you came in strong, and you did a tag ending, and looked at everyone, made sure that you were turning to the people in the band, you made it very clear when you wanted to end the song, and everybody ended together. So that's something where it's like, you start the tune together, you end the tune together, even if the train almost goes completely off the tracks in the middle, which it almost did, you were able to like get back on the tracks and pull into the station fine. And there's a lot of people that would be like at a gig, eating dinner, having wine, and you never even noticed that we almost completely fell apart in the middle of the tune because you got it back together. So I'm sort of assuming that you were kind of the band leader for this because, by default, because you were playing the melody. So great job of kind of bringing things back together. And we'll talk with our rhythm section about what we can do when things start to, feel a little bit more tenuous, to how we can kind of keep it together. But I like that you guys stayed in the fight and nobody kind of gave up, we didn't stop, you found your way through, you fought through it. So I applaud that. And one other observation, what's your name? Very important?
Trinity.
Trinity. One other thing that it was warming my heart because it made me think of one of my oldest friends in music that also plays the baritone saxophone. I don't know if it's something that you've thought about or that you do consciously or you're just feeling the music, but there's a little bit of choreography when you were playing, And it makes me think of this bari sax player, Leo P. Have you ever heard of him? You guys know this band, Too Many Zoos, and this guy, Leo P. So this is really neither here nor there, but you just made me think of him because Leo Pellegrino, this bari player, Leo P. If you look him up, does anyone not know who that is? Maybe? If you haven't heard of him, go on YouTube tonight and go down to Leo P. rabbit hole. It will be the most entertaining thing you've ever seen because he's a bari sax player and he's all about like dance moves and it's crazy jazz, bass lines, funk, whatever. But he's literally doing the craziest dance moves the entire time. And I've known him since we were in middle school because we grew up in Pittsburgh together. And he went to the music school in Pittsburgh. I went to regular school, but we did all summer jazz camps together. And this guy used to wear all green. He's Irish. And he would have a little penny whistle that he would keep in his sleeve. And he would walk around the halls of school and just pull out the penny whistle and start playing it. He spray painted wooden clogs green, and he only wore wooden clogs throughout all of high school. So he's really a guy that beats the tune of his own drum. Right? And we went to the Manhattan School of Music together. We did our undergrad, and he played bari in all of the ensembles, but he wasn't fully developed as crazy dancing Leo P. It was still a more reserved version of that. And then, I guess my point is just sort of about finding our own way, and there are different paths to this music world, and we all have different personalities. And after our undergrad, a few of us got invited back to Manhattan School to do our masters and got scholarship. And Leo was one of those cats because he played bari in every big band. He played in the Afro-Cuban band, and you have a great sound. You were honking it out. A great bari player with a big sound, whenever there's a gig for that saxophone, you will always have that gig. So Leo was really valuable to the school. So they gave him a full scholarship to come back and do his masters. And it was our first semester of coming back for our grad. And Leo was like, you know what, man? I got this band. We're really serious about busking in the subway playing for tips. And I think I'm going to drop out. And I was like, what? Dude, you're on full scholarship. You're going to drop out to play in the subway? What are you doing? And the trumpet player that was in that band with him, Matt Muirhead, is also in Too Many Zoos. He was finishing his undergrad. And he was in the last year of his undergrad. So he made it all the way to senior year. And they both decided to drop out. And I was like, guys, you got to stay in school. What are you doing? We need these degrees. And I think that was, the first semester they dropped out. That was December. And then February, a month and a half later, was when they went crazy viral on Reddit for playing in the subway. And then literally just the rest is history. Leo P., there's a video of him playing at the prom in BBC with Christian Scott next to him. And he's playing in front of this huge orchestra playing Monin, the Mingus arrangement. And he's just going crazy wild. And he's not stopped touring the world, basically, right? And he has this cool band with Grace Kelly now, We Are Too Saxy, and everything is about choreography. But it's funny because I played a gig with him when we were home for Christmas, a couple of years ago, because he's from Pittsburgh, I'm from Pittsburgh, and I was like, Leo, you want to play in this little restaurant? It's a quintet gig. But I knew him, we grew up in combo together playing jazz standards. So I know that he can sound like Stan Getz if he wants to. So I was like, Leo, let's play this little jazz restaurant gig. He's like, I don't know, man. I get nervous around you guys. You guys are super jazzy. I haven't played jazz in a while, like, I don't know, man, like, I just wanna play like Blue Bossa and like Girl from Ipanema. I was like, cool, whatever tunes you want, like, let's do it, it'd be fun. Like, I got the whole rhythm section of guys that we all grew up with. So we went into this gig, and it's literally like a restaurant gig, you know? And like, I could see how nervous Leo was, and I'm like, this dude plays in front of like 5,000 screaming people, and he's nervous at this restaurant gig playing Autumn Leaves right now. And like, the gig kind of started, and Leo was like so uncomfortable, he was like out of his skin, just standing there kind of playing Autumn Leaves. And it was like maybe 2 tunes in, I was like, dang, he really doesn't, I feel bad, like maybe I didn't want him to be uncomfortable. Like 3rd tune, like he's playing, I'm like, we're gonna feature Leo on In a Sentimental Mood. He starts playing a ballad, starts moving around a little bit more, and he's just like, okay, it's kind of getting into it, you know. In a sentimental mood, by the time he takes a solo, he closes his eyes, he's starting to get more comfortable, starting to move around a little bit more. Like by the end of that song, he was playing In a Sentimental Mood as a beautiful ballad, but he was doing full Leo Keith, like while he was doing it, and he was just playing a ballad, and it was so beautiful, but it was like, that was his comfort zone. He didn't know anything else. So he literally couldn't stand there and play. He was playing perfect jazz, but he was doing his like Leo Keith thing the whole time. And it was just like, that was what was ingrained in him. That was his muscle memory. And I guess the whole point of me telling this story, other than that you made me think of it, and I think it's a fun anecdote, is that not all of you guys are music majors, right? Not all of you are performance majors. You're going to support yourself 100% playing music. But there are so many different paths to being a musician. And a lot of people I know that were maybe education majors that were like, feel less than because they weren't a performance major, or people that some of you guys have we have an architect, right? We have other majors and stuff, and it's like, you're not less as your day job or your gig or something like that. Like, we all in New York, we know great musicians that you watch them on live streams and you've heard of them and they're putting out records and they have day jobs too. So like, don't let the fact that you guys, maybe this for you is more of a hobby or something on the side, like, that doesn't mean that you can't still consider yourself one of the cats and a musician. So, you know, Leo is a good example of somebody that just like let his personality shine and went for his thing, and he manifested it, and you know, it worked out great for him. So we all have different journeys with music, and I know not all of us are trying to like play at the Village Vanguard with their own band, but just don't ever let that get you guys down. Like, we're all able to go to a jam session somewhere and play Blue Bossa, you know? It's like, we're all in the same community, so. I got all of that just from you doing a Tuesday. I didn't mean to hog the time, but maybe we can get back to, before we switch it up briefly, like some rhythm section stuff. Like, I feel like Caleb's been talking back there, but what as rhythm section players, your goal, like beyond when it's your turn to solo, is really to like keep the train moving, right? Get to the next station, land the plane, all those things. So you have a greater responsibility. Horn players, when it's not our turn to solo, we can go to the bar, we can get another drink, we can go stand on the side, we can check our Instagram notifications, what have you, whatever horrible faux pas. The point is, like, you can do that and the tune goes on. The rhythm section, you guys have to be constantly locked in. If you let your mind wander for one measure, the whole thing can derail. So what do we do when there's, a feeling of uneasiness? Like, you guys kind of got yourself back together. Caleb, I feel like you've probably been talking about it, right? But maybe someone else in our rhythm section, Tyler or Charles, like, speaking about what we just watched. Like, what's something that you can do when you feel like things are kind of getting, a little bit off center?
Yeah, I could just say that, like, marking the tops of each section, or at least the top of each chorus, is very helpful to people if there's like a feeling of uncertainty. So like most music that we play in a jazz context, especially this tune, happens in 8-bar phrases. So each section is 8 bars, right? So you want to kind of mark each 8-bar section if there's some uncertainty. There's times where you don't have to mark it if you're playing a phrase that goes over it and you want to be creative around it. But when there's uncertainty, it's helpful to mark, especially the top of the chorus. That's like the top of the hierarchy for marking if you're uncertain, and then each 8-bar phrase is like next in terms of the hierarchy of marking. So by marking, I mean just like playing a cymbal hit a little louder right on the top, or like playing a chord, a big strong chord on the top of that section and just making sure that like it sounds like it's a new thing or like a marked thing.
What were you gonna add, Charles?
I was gonna say the exact same thing,
Okay.
but then I have another thing as far as just being able to lock in more. So like, you know,
I have nothing to say.
you know, we have this 4/4, right? And quarter notes, right? So to make 4 notes in a row sound good, we gotta like kind of really lock into that, right? I was telling my last master class we did, it's gotta be kind of urgent, you know what I mean? Urgent. So can we just play quarter notes together and to see if we can just make that sound good? Just go with it. So I want you to play just the quarter notes and imagine that the symbol, this is your finger, right? You're touching the symbol and the symbol is like 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, right? But you can go bang, 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 right? It's too hot. I can still touch a little bit. And then with that hi-hat, imagine this hi-hat is like, you know, these 2 things are the beat, right? So that's really important. You can't be a lazy like, right? Like when you're at a concert or you're in church or something, or you're snapping along, you're not going, you're going, all right? Or, so like, let's get the intensity of the hi-hat like this. So you can kind of press in a little bit more, and you can kind of rock your foot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can just lift your foot up, and just see if you can I just want you to play the hi-hat, just 1 like this. And try to not let that nice and tight. There we go. Now this chord is on the right side. That's the whole beat there. It's kind of intense. Now bass.
Because also in all jazz anyway, we're always thinking about 2 and 4, but when we're thinking about changes, at least for me personally and a lot of my heroes, it's really actually all about 1 and 3. All the changes are moving on 1 and 3. We're playing our notes, all of our resolutions are landing on either beats 1 or sometimes 3, but usually beats 1. So like, and also you don't have to do this, but like if you watch videos of some of my favorite bass players like Paul Chambers, Ray Brown, a lot of them, they tap on 1 and 3 because, especially this is I guess more of a bass oriented thing, but just harmonically as a soloist is something to think about. You want to focus on beats 1 and 3, and more specifically 1 because that's where everything is moving. So like, and especially when you get, like if things get off a little bit, I know like sometimes you flip a beat or something, but it's really important above everything to have 1 and 3 really ingrained in us because look, like a tune like this, it's really all 1 bar changes, but sometimes like you have little embellishments, like it's 1, 4, 3, 6, let's say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's moving there. So as us bass players playing on the downbeats and they're playing the opposite, we have to be so strong because no one else is playing those downbeats with us. We're just the ones staying in that. So I think it's just important because if you're thinking like about a bass line, you wanna change up whatever notes you're playing, you wanna play something that isn't the root. Besides thinking about whatever line you're thinking of, before that, you don't wanna sacrifice the time. Like if you're gonna go somewhere else, and if it means you have to go somewhere else, and like, or if you have to sacrifice going somewhere else, then just stay in half position. Like, can we play a little bit of time? I'll show you, like, you can play just right here, the whole time, the whole song, any key really, you don't even have to move your hands. So let's play like the same tempo. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You can play like the whole thing, and the whole time what I was thinking about there, I played some other notes that weren't the roots on occasion, but most of the time I was thinking roots on downbeats and really thinking about 1 and 3. Like you want to be thinking about the feel the whole time. This feeling, you want to be thinking about balance. Don't think because I saw, like I know it's like I'm not super familiar with the song, but you want to try to get to a point when while you're reading, but you don't want to be like glued in. Because something like when I'm looking at Charles, like when he played "If I Were a Bell," that first song in the beginning, I knew to stay in 2 because I looked. If I see him whipping sticks out of his gun slot, I know like then I know where to go to 4. But like he stayed like
What's the word you're looking for?
holster. That's what I'm looking for. Like if I see wherever you're keeping your like your sticks or whatever, if you see there's a movement, then I know we're gonna go to 4. But if I see keeping those brushes there, and if we're playing style of Miles Davis, I know they like to say it too. So it's important to like think and look around, but you're kind of multitasking. You're thinking about the feel, but then also watching for when things change. So that's my.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great job, y'all.
There you go. We'll get out.
You don't want, I don't want the pizza to get cold. Actually, cold pizza's okay.
Yeah, so then people reach wrong.
Well, we're about to get it on. I don't know. It's hard. But it's like all the other dominating forms that not as my line is going to drop.
Go like this.
Which we have to train. That's so popular. I know, I was rooting against him in the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah. I love that. But yeah, it's my arrangement of moments notice. It's like, it's a blues. Oh, yeah.
Pepper Adams, Don Bird.
Oh,
Let's
look at
go.
that. Caleb knows it. Look at that. Encyclopedia.
Oh, I've been telling you about this song all tour. We were listening to it at the gym yesterday.
Caleb's
Logged in, but I'm so happy. We don't even need to hear it, we just know they can play.
All right. We've got our roadmap. Okay. Take it away.
Well, I have a slight advantage because I know where it is, but, because, are you guys gonna mimic that, or are you doing your own?
We're trying to mimic.
The mimic it is about here. But it sits there, because that's an easy tempo to fall behind or go in front. Yes. But it's really weird. Is that like nice bass chorus up front? You guys-
I'm not gonna follow that to the letter.
No. Just for the tempo, just for the tempo.
Alright, you ready?
expert that has listened to the record, like Caleb and Tyler now. I'm new to this tune, so I might be the one that is the fish out of water here. But just what I was reading off of this chart as I was playing along, what you guys are playing very confidently together is not what's written here. So, no, I mean, that's...
This is my turn.
Okay, so I was like, either what's on the page is wrong, or what... Okay, but you guys are playing the melody together perfectly, so you learned it by ear
Yes.
and played it together and then wrote it out. Okay, so I mean, that's great. No, that's great. I mean, like for example, when I'm learning a tune, I always learn it by ear first, and only when I had a teacher tell me I had to write it out would I write it out. So I actually prefer that you guys learned it that way, and if I put on the record, I would just learn the melody from playing along with the record. So that's fine. I don't, like I said, I might be the fish out of water. I don't know the tune. So I was reading what you wrote, which was not what you guys were playing. So we got that out of the way. You guys were correct on the melody. We were sort of together there. I was wondering about that. But no, it's not your bad. It's not your bad. You were playing the melody correctly. So it was like, if your job was to be a copyist and make a chart for someone, then you were bad. But you played it right. So one other question I had, one thing that came to mind for the guitar. Admittedly, I was listening to the soloists when they were playing, so I wasn't necessarily hearing. I definitely noticed you on the bass solo, you were playing like essentially rhythm guitar, like every beat, which is like if we're Freddie Green and we're in like a big band, that's exactly what rhythm guitar is about. It's like you're basically a percussion instrument playing every beat, giving us groove. But were you doing that constantly for the whole tune, or like when the horns were soloing, were you doing more rhythmic comping, or were you just playing kind of rhythm guitar?
I was definitely doing more like rhythmic stuff when people were soloing, and even like towards the end of the bass solo, I kind of started like doing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean I was only asking because you really came to mind during the bass solo where it was this rhythm guitar, and I would just say, it's like Tyler's in the bathroom, but I'm a bit of a piano player myself, so I have some concept of comping, and I think for you in guitar in this setting, playing rhythm guitar like that is a great way to just play groove and lock in the time, and so there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I would just say that's one texture. So yeah, what you were doing, where for the other soloists, mixing it up and playing more conversationally, more like, like kind of just interjections, it's good to have both, But that's something that's very powerful. You guys kind of kept the tempo and you all were consistent, but if you're in a tune that's falling apart, like some of the other ones that we might have had sometimes, for you to just all of a sudden as a comping instrument, to just do that, where you're now playing every beat, it's like you're helping us get locked in the time, the groove. So I wasn't mad at that at all with the bass. It was more just a question of, if you were doing that the entire time across every solo, then that's too much of one thing, Like, and too much of anything ceases to be a good thing, So it's all about like balance, and maybe on the bass solo you're doing rhythm guitar, and then on the trumpet solo you might lay out completely for a chorus. And then on the baritone saxophone you come back in, you might come up with sort of a, on a blues, a lot of times as comping instruments, people will come up with like little motifs. So you could come up with a thing where like all of a sudden for the saxophone solo, the piano player starts going, like sticking to that rhythm, right? And then a soloist is going to hear that, and all of a sudden maybe the soloist is going to react to that. Or it might be something where the piano player is doing like nothing. Nothing. Right? Just creating a little arrangement on the go, Right? So like for an entire chorus, for a comping instrument, coming up with a rhythmic thing like that, it's just like a little arrangement on the go, It just might spur the soloist to do something different, as opposed to just kind of like meanderingly like comping nice things the whole time. Come up with like a mini little arrangement to kind of give wind beneath someone's wings when they're soloing, Any other observations? Yeah, Caleb.
I was gonna have one thing. I know I've listened to this recording a bunch, but besides just the horn players transcribing the melody, rhythm section guys, have you listened to the recording of this one? Like you learned it off the record? A quiz. My man on drums. What's your name? Matthew. Do you know who's playing drums on this recording?
I did. I can't tell right now.
Well, he's listed as Hay Lewis, but that's because he was under contract, but that's Lewis Hayes. So Louis Hayes, the great drummer, played with Campbell Adderley and so many other greats. He's playing this, and actually, only thing I'm mentioning this is because the melody, I know just from checking out the recording, the drum part is very specific. Like, and you did, like, the first half of it, you did it great, you catching all the hits, and you're getting all the upbeats and the space. When the time comes in, what is it, the seventh bar, the seventh and eighth bar, like, that's when the group happens. He plays the most smacking shuffle of all time. Did that shuffle beat, that snare he's hitting is, like, so driving, he's almost a little bit quieter, so I think just try to, I know we all want to, like, play our own way, and we should at some point, but I think, like, taking the dynamic things from the recording, like, when you're playing a song like this, like, playing maybe those hits, because I noticed the volume was kind of in the same range for most of the song, including the melody, which is okay, because I mean, some of the best Blue Note recordings ever, people ripping, it's just like, same thing, groove the whole time, but with this song, and also it's a really long recording, but specific to the melody, it's kind of like the drum part, that first 6 bars is a little under, where he's just floating and responding to the melody, but then when the time comes in, he's playing like a really loud shuffle, and it's like really like pocket bass, that part. And then also just one other thing, and then another bass tray, one thing, just, do you know like the difference between the two there's kind of like two forms of blueses that people play, like there's kind of like the pop and rock way where you kind of, on this one it'll be like C7, B flat, F is the end. On this one, and jazz for the most part, 95%, it would play 2-5-1 at the end. So you would play G minor, Benny, can you play that? G minor, C7, F, 7. So that's the turnaround that you're going to be playing on every song ever, basically. So just, that, like, if you learn that, then you can really play anything. But just for this tune, and some blueses, there are a bunch of jazz recordings where it is 5-4-1, or this one is 2-5-1, because also it lines with the melody that way too. And there's also a 3-6 that comes to that too. So like when you get to that part where you start swinging, it's like a bar of F, like 1, 2, 3, 4, F, and then there's A minor, D, and then G minor, and that's part of the hits lines with the melody too. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's also for solo too there. But that's all I have to say.
Yeah, let me first off apologize for grabbing your arm. It's an instinctual thing. So, yeah, you don't ever want to just be leaving. I mean, I think I did at some point on Earth. For the most part, you don't want to be doing that because anything can happen. And I noticed you doing it once the student started again. You went back to it like, oh, wait, hold on, Charles, grab my arm. So I'm not supposed to do that. So just keep that in mind. And, but great solo, first off. And got a lot of good technique. I think, I liked it most when you stopped playing the hi-hat during the solo.
Yeah.
The 2 and 4 can really, keeping that can really hamper, it can really gum you up. I usually only do it for kind of like a compositional aspect, an arrangement aspect. Like, hey guys, here's it, because I'm playing all my cool stuff, or if I want really free, right? If I'm looking around at the rest of the band and they're like kind of like, all right, I'll start playing 2 and 4. So now they know where we're at.
He's singing the melody during his solo, trying to remember.
Yeah, so I'll play 4, like, all right, guys, it's the end of my little composition. This is the little cherry on top. But usually I like to keep the hi-hat kind of sound, kind of sound here. You got right? So try just do one chord without. Get me just see how it feels. Right now. Yeah. Give it stop time. Give it stop. Bomb. Dumb. Bomb.
It's not downbeats.
like Benny, I compare it to basketball. Hey, put the ball in the hoop. You know what I mean? Like, you still gotta get the 2 points, right? And I'm sure a lot of other jazz drummers would get mad at you for playing on the snare drum with your hands, but I do that all the time, actually. I love doing that. It's a great way to support vocalists, especially in a room that's live. You have drummers, they have to be really creative and where like be in soundscape comfortably. But what was your reference for that when you were playing on the snare drum with your hands?
Reference,
Like, what gave you the idea to do that? Like, what do you-
literally, I always see people doing all the same things, either switch to the hi-hat or drop out, and I love playing with it. You know, I play a lot of hand percussion and things too.
Great.
So it's just like, I feel like that's a texture that, especially for a bass solo, kind of complements it a little better.
Yeah.
And I can be more rhythmic without having to worry about being overpowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, great. Whenever I do it, I like to, well, it was one of the best references is check out Papa Joe Jones. Papa Joe Jones' YouTube solo, where he plays a whole solo with his hands. And it's really cool. So, which I like to imitate a conga, right? So I'll turn off,
Yeah.
right? And right? You get that same sound with your index finger. Right? And the same thing goes with the tom. Like the center. And then you can practice little ostinatos under it. And then you can really support like a vocalist or a singer or a bass solo. And then for you, the guitar, he's playing all this cool rhythmic Latin stuff. You can go into another vibe with it, right? Because if you're chunking along and he's playing, it's like, you know, we had a, anyway, that's what I would say. Oh, the last thing, sorry, I get. So at this point in your development, you've got speed, you've got stuff going on, something you can do to just further and help yourself be able to play with a band, you just focus playing really slow, but with really nice tone on each idea of drum, right? So just like literally just taking the snare drum, because I'm seeing a lot of this, like, you can do it on purpose, but I'm seeing you play a lot on the velvet snare. Instead of, you almost hear no overtones in the drum. So just like, you can literally just sit down and be like, alright. Make sure they're like exactly the same time. Same with, this is the thing you want to play here. You want to make sure it's on purpose.
Yeah.
So like, center of the drum, because that's how you get those pure tone out of each instrument. So just practice super, you should just be like, that'll increase your musicality very quickly. Just practicing getting a nice sound on each instrument off the bat. Because you already got great ideas and speed, so just getting that together, that'll really help out a lot.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
All our comments, really.
We give a big round of applause. Thank you guys for all being willing participants. There is pizza, and there. Please make sure the pizza like stays in there. All right, we don't want pizza to come out here because that's where stuff will get messy and then get fire. So, which make sure we keep the pizza there, okay? I'm sure they'll be like sitting around if you guys want it.
Yeah, we'll hang for a minute. Anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to come up to us and hang. We're around. We don't have a gig in town. We're playing in Kansas City tomorrow, but all of these guys are on records and they're on Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram. So if anybody wants to stay in touch, please do. And thank you guys for hanging in there with us. Thank you. Yeah.